my friends, let me show you something. What? What's this happening? Why this pen always comes straight down to my hand instead of going to the roof? Did you ask yourself? You know what? Long ago, a famous scientist named Newton had asked this same question to himself when he observed an apple falls down the ground. And while asking this question, he accidentally invented gravity or gravitation. So today, we are also going to learn about gravitation and gravity together. So are you excited to learn with me? Stay tuned. But before moving forward, let me introduce myself to you. Hey my friends, I am Nazish, your physics mentor today. I am a postgraduate in biophysics and currently I am pursuing my teacher's training program in Masters in Physics. So let me start from the very basic. When I drop this ball, why it falls down? Or why do apples always falls down the ground? This is because our earth are pulling these objects towards itself with an invisible force known as gravity. In fact, earth pulls every object with this invisible force. For example, the earth is pulling moon towards itself, and similarly, the sun is pulling earth and all the other planets in the solar system towards itself. But the interesting question here is, do all the objects in this universe attracts or pulling each other? For example, am I pulling this pen towards myself? Or this pen or ball? Do they pulling each other? Or are you pulling everything around yourself? Well, it may seem quite strange, my friend, but the answer is yes. So every single object in this universe pulls every other object with a kind of invisible force known as gravitational force. But what are the requirements? Simple. The objects must have mass and the gravitational force is always attractive in nature. So let us consider the factors on which this gravitational force depends. It is stated that gravitational force is directly proportional to the product of the masses of the objects. What does this statement means? For example, I have these two blocks and I am saying that these two blocks are pulling each other with a force of 1 Newton. But what happens if I doubles the mass of this yellow block? Will the force get changed? What's going to happen with the force now? Yes, it gets doubled. So the new force will be 2 Newton. Similarly, if I triples the mass or I increase the mass of this pink block, what's going to happen with the new force now? Yes, my friend, the new force will increase to 6 times of the original force and the new force will be 6 Newton. So while increasing the mass of these two blocks, the force will eventually increase with the product of the masses of these blocks. Clear? The next factor is distance. For example, let us take these two blocks. The force of attraction between them is 6 Newton and say they are separated by a distance of small d. But what happens if I doubles the distance between these two blocks? What's going to happen with the force now? Yeah, the force will decrease by 4 times. And 1/4 times of 6 Newton is 1.5 Newton. So while I increase the distance between these two blocks, the force will decrease from 6 Newton to 1.5 Newton. Let us bring this to their original position. Now the distance between them is d. What happens if I halve the distance between these two blocks? Now, what's going to happen with the force? Yes, the force will increase 4 times now. And 4 times of 6 Newton is 24 Newtons. So when we decrease the distance between these two blocks, the force will increase from 6 Newton to 24 Newton. That's why it is known as inverse square law, where force varies inversely with the square of the distance. So if we sum up this thing, we get this form that F is proportional to m1 and m2 and F proportional to r square. So F proportional to m1 m2 by r square. Now whenever we are trying to remove this proportionality sign with a constant one, we must put an proportionality constant, and here this proportionality constant is termed as G, which is known as universal constant of gravitation. Now what is interesting about this capital G? It has a constant value everywhere in this universe, no matter what two objects you are considering. And it has a constant value of 6.67 into 10 to the minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. So via sum up all these factors, we have a formula or equation which is F equal to G m1 m2 by r square, and this is known as Newton's law of gravitation, which states that force is directly proportional to the mass of the object, and or gravitational force is directly proportional to the product of the mass of the object and is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between these two objects. Thank you, my friends. Hope you all understand this. Bye-bye.